Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here today, my name is Audrey, and we are going to be breaking down and answering some questions about the premiere of Loki. Yes, we're finally here. We're finally back. We had like a 6-week break from Marvel, but now we're back again. So very excited. I loved the first episode, so I will be happy to break it down for you today. If you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe. I will be doing videos on all of the Marvel series this year. I have already done the one on Falcon and Winter Soldier, so you can go back and watch those episodes if you haven't already seen them. And we will be doing Loki for the 6 weeks, and then moving on to the future shows as well. So I would love for you to stick around and give this video a thumbs up as well while you're watching, and let's go ahead and get started with the breakdown. So episode 1 is titled The Glorious Purpose. Now we have 2012 Loki, who is fresh off getting his ass kicked by the Avengers. He escaped during Avengers Endgame with the Tesseract. They show that Casey's really involved here. They show him, you know, the events of Endgame with him leaving, and then he ends up in the Goji, I think it's the Goji? The Goji Desert in Mongolia. The Time Variants show up, the Time Variants Authority show up and take him with them to the TVA. The Marvel logo is going to be green and gold. I did see that when it was flashing. It was, the Marvel logo was green and gold for Loki, of course. The little TVA weapon has a lot of purposes here. It can slow down the speed of time, so one of the time cops, the TVA, I can't remember what they call them, but they're basically time cops, hits Loki in the face with one, and it goes at 1/16 speed, which was very interesting. It also, I believe, is the same weapon that they're using to literally erase people from the timeline, to reset them by literally just putting them out of existence. I get in here, and there's a little breakdown from Miss Minutes, which we do find out is confirmed to be voiced by Tara Strong. If you don't know, Tara Strong is a great voice actor. She's voiced a lot of different people. I think the most common one that a lot of people would know is that she voiced Timmy Turner in The Fairly Odd Parents. So I think it was pretty great that she is voicing Miss Minutes as well. She does a lot of other stuff as well. So just that's who that is. There's a breakdown of what exactly the TVA does, why the TVA came to be with the Timekeepers, pretty much in the aspect of there were multiple timelines, there was a large multiverse war, multiverse being a key word, and then the time variants were set to merge the timeline and create a sacred timeline that they watch over. Once a variant has veered off and creates another timeline, that is what they then call a nexus event. Another keyword as well, because we know Wanda Maximoff is a nexus level being, meaning she can be in multiple dimensions. That is kind of what is going on there. We then cut to 1549 in France, in a church. However, this is what we have seen from the trailer footage, where Mobius is speaking to someone, which you find out is a little kid, in front of a stained glass mirror. The stained glass mirror, stained glass window is of a devil figure, which is kind of interesting to be in a church. Honestly, a lot of people have theorized that it does look like Mephisto. I don't think Mephisto's going to show up, but I will let you know it does look like it's an Easter egg for Mephisto, and they continuously refer to like devil, 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 which I believe is just another version of Loki. That is the Loki variant that is running around that we get more information about at the end of the episode. Back at the TVA, Loki stands trial. We find out that his magic does not work there. We meet the judge character, Ravonna Renslayer, Judge Renslayer. She is, in the comics, the love interest to Kang the Conqueror, who is coming in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think there could be teas for him in this as well, considering the fact that he is a time-traveling villain and kind of just goes through time and messes with stuff. So that is going to be very important with this. Mobius ends up standing up for Loki, takes him off because he thinks that he can help him track down the other variant in the system. Mobius says that Loki is not that big of a threat. This version of Loki is not that big of a threat. He calls him a little pussycat in comparison to the others, which I find is very funny. This seems to confirm we are completely retconning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am sorry to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, but with the highlight reel, the Loki highlight reel that's shown, he does show that Phil Coulson was murdered. Now, yes, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. he somehow comes back and there's this whole thing, but considering that Mobius didn't indicate that, oh, he was unsuccessful, it seems we have retconned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, apologies in advance to my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stans, but this is the way that we're going for the MCU forward. Mobius calls him out because he's not really very mischievous, he's just kind of evil, which I can agree with. There's some mischievous acts that he gets into throughout the MCU, but ultimately he's doing more evil deeds than just completely mischievous deeds. We find out that D.B. Cooper Loki is main timeline Loki. See, this is kind of confusing, but he was main timeline Loki for this version of Loki as well. That he lost a bet to Thor, so that's what he was doing there. So that's kind of funny that they just kind of went about that. Loki is not buying any of this until Mobius shows him Frigga and Frigga's death, which then he thinks is still a trick, that she's being held somewhere. But eventually he does come to terms with the fact that Frigga is dead, because this version of Loki, she's not dead, and in his mind, that happens later in the events of Thor: The Dark World. Loki then escapes after Mobius leaves because of a whole event, and they argue with the other time cop. Loki escapes, tries to take the Tesseract from the guy named Casey, which is my cat's name, fun fact, and finds other Infinity Stones in the drawer and finds out that they just don't work. The guy jokes that they just use them as paperweights. Like, I don't know how, like, even the little desk guy doesn't really understand what they are. That's kind of interesting that they just were like, yep, okay. Loki then goes back to the room, watches the rest of the tape, and witnesses his own death at the hands of Thanos. Once Mobius comes back in to try to be like, oh, you didn't leave, we find out he did try to leave with the Tesseract, but magic, including with the Infinity Stones, does not work in the TVA, so that's pretty cool. But they are going to work out a deal to get Loki to help them out so that he does not get permanently erased from the timeline, since he cannot return to his own timeline. Cut to then, we find out that the variant that they are tracking down is a Loki variant, which we knew. I think we knew there would be multiple versions of Loki, and a lot of people did think that this was going to be the plot of the show. So that's not too much of a secret, but pretty much what we expected, but it is still fine. They go to Loki. It cuts to Oklahoma in the past, in the 1800s, and shows, we see the scene from the trailer where the variant drops the lamp on a field of oil. A thing to highlight here, we do find out that they test the little staff that they find and find out it's from the 3rd millennia. So it's a future version of Loki, so that could be a key as well as I get into like my theories and questions start following up. So that's what we find out through this episode. This episode was pretty long. It was about 50 minutes. Next week's episode is just as long. I would anticipate all of them are probably going to be this length, as were Falcon and Winter Soldier, since there's only 6 episodes to get everything wrapped up. But this will have a second season, so wrap up and set up the next season. So a few questions. I'm going to answer my beloved friend Shannon sent me some questions. Also, for the upcoming weeks, I am going to post just something new to do. For questions, I'm going to post on my Instagram and on my Twitter what questions you might have for that you would want me to cover, different topics you might want me to cover, just things for the episodes. So if you are not following me already, make sure to do so. I will put my information in the description box below. Well, first off, there's a lot of questions about the time travel and TVA logic. So Shannon asks, why didn't the Timekeepers intervene when Gamora, Nat, and Vision were sacrificed for the Infinity Stones, if they had a lot of them in their drawer? Quick answer is, this also goes into why is Loki more guilty than Steve Rogers for time traveling. Quick answer is, they explained it a little bit, that this was always what was meant to happen. The other thing with Steve is that they did take stones out of the timelines, in the different timelines, but they put them back exactly where they belonged at the exact moment they were taken. So they put them exactly back where everything was. So basically, you can go back in time, you can go to a different dimension, but you can't alter it, if that makes loose sense. So technically you being there alters it, but MCU uses a different form of time travel. Basically, it has a branch timeline version of time travel. It doesn't have like the Back to the Future time travel, where if you go back in time, you meddle with events and the future is changed. It's that another timeline is formed. So if Steve goes back and puts everything back where it was and is theoretically inconspicuous, because they're all like disguised and whatnot, then the timeline doesn't change. So that's the answer for that one. And then she also asks, do you think Loki will be seen as a villain or more as an anti-hero throughout the series? I think he'll be an anti-hero. If not, they might make him like a full-on hero. Yeah, I mean, I think it will be like the comics. So Loki is just mischievous, and I think that's kind of what he's going to come into his own in this, and instead of being a villain, which he says that he sees himself as a villain at the end of this, he will be an anti-hero. He'll just be the god of mischief. So he ultimately would have good intentions, if not a little selfish in his intentions. Maybe that will change a little bit going forward. But I think he's just going to be kind of mischievous, but ultimately having good intentions. Two other questions that I have are, which Loki variant is it? I believe this is going to be Lady Loki. We know it's a future version of Loki. If we look to the comics, which we know the MCU does not follow very well, if we look to the comics though, Lady Loki is a reincarnated version of Loki. So theoretically, what could be happening? I mean, I know she's a variant of Loki, but Loki does get reincarnated after a death, after events of Ragnarok, not the movies, but after Ragnarok, which they did adapt a little bit. So he gets reincarnated into a lady version of Loki. I think that's going to be important also, considering the fact that Loki was confirmed to be gender fluid. So we don't know. We assume Lady Loki's in this. We assume Lady Loki is being played by Sophia Di Martino, which is funny. I wore this hair because she has very similar hair. People, for some reason, think that in the trailer, her Loki sitting by a short-haired woman that has hair like this thinks it's Natasha. It's not. It's Sophia Di Martino, but we believe that is going to be Lady Loki. So I think the Loki variant is Lady Loki. I think there might be more to what is going on. I don't think, she might just be mischievous and trying to start the multiverse herself, which she won't need to because Wanda's going to do it for everybody. I think we are supposedly going to get a King Loki, so he's like more of an older version of Loki. So I think the main variant is her, but I think maybe she's trying to stop the King Loki variant, which I know that could just ends up having more questions than answers, but that is where that is. We do see the timekeepers at the beginning. My other thing that I want to bring up is there might be a possibility to see the Watchers. We know the Watchers have shown up in the MCU. They're at the end of Guardians Volume 2. They're in Guardians Volume 2. They are in the post-credit scene. Stanley is a Watcher informant, and we also know that the Watchers are going to be in the What If series. So I'm kind of curious to see if they might be in there. They kind of watch over everything happening, similar to the Timekeepers. So I wonder if either they'll be the same characters or they will show up. That is what I have for this week's episode. I am very excited for this. I am loving it so far. One episode in, I think this one has to be my favorite. It has the Guardians and Thor Ragnarok feel, the cosmic level stuff. So I love this. Obviously, I love the Marvel cosmic stuff. So I'm excited to see more of this. Let me know what you thought of the episode down below. And as always, I've been Audrey, and I will see you next week for Loki episode 2. And if you missed my Eternals trailer breakdown, you can watch it here. Or it's not a breakdown, it's a reaction. I always confuse that. I confuse reactions with breakdowns, and then people get very mad if I put a reaction and then it's a breakdown. They get really mad at that. Words are hard, y'all. Goodbye.